A curious boy. From an early age, Thomas Edison loved to question things. He spent his whole life exploring why and how things worked. Once he understood how things worked, he tried to figure out how to make them work better. Thomas Edison invented or improved over 1,000 things, some of which we use every day. Many people consider him one of the greatest American inventors of all time. Young Al. Thomas Alva Edison was born on February 11, 1847. He was the youngest of 7 children, 4 of whom survived to adulthood. Al, as he was called as a boy, lived in Ohio with his family until 1854, when they moved to Michigan. Although smart and curious, Al did not do well in school. In those days, students memorized and recited facts and didn't have the opportunity to explore and ask their own questions, which is what Al loved to do. Al's mother eventually removed her son from school and taught him at home. She taught him to love to read. His father encouraged his reading by giving him 10 cents for every classic book he read. Al's parents allowed him to take a job with the railroad when he was just 12 years old. He sold food and newspapers to the passengers. Al used the money he earned to buy books and science supplies. He was allowed to set up a science lab in a baggage car until an accidental fire ended his experiments. Also around this time, Al lost most of his hearing. As an adult, he would say someone grabbed him by the ears and pulled him onto a train. The story could not be confirmed. When Al was 15, he saved a young boy's life. The boy was about to be run over by a boxcar when Al grabbed him and carried him to safety. The child's grateful father, who was a telegraph operator, offered Al an apprenticeship. As Al grew older, he traveled around the country as a telegraph operator. He now preferred to be called Tom. He continued to be interested in science and spent much of the money he earned on books and supplies. He liked to work the night shift and use his days for experiments. Edison the inventor. After a few years, Thomas Edison decided that he wanted to become a full-time inventor. Some of his early inventions were improvements on the telegraph machine. For example, he found a way to send 2 messages and receive 2 messages at the same time. Earlier telegraphs could only send or receive 1. Edison received his first patent for an electric vote counter in 1869. The invention did not do well. Edison continued to invent. He once said, "I never allow myself to become discouraged under any circumstances." Do you know? The telegraph let people communicate before the invention of the telephone. It used a code of dots and dashes, or short and long beeps, to form letters. A new lab. Edison found business partners and began to manufacture some of his inventions. In 1876, he built a lab for his science experiments in Menlo Park, New Jersey. It was the first for-profit research lab in the world. People called it the Invention Factory, since multiple inventions could be worked on at once. There, Edison worked tirelessly for many hours each day, and many of his employees worked just as hard. Edison sketched his ideas in notebooks and gave the sketches to his 25 workers, who then made working models. In all, Edison filled 3,500 notebooks with ideas for inventions. Not all of those ideas worked, but Edison said, negative results are just as valuable to me as positive results. I can never find the thing that does the job the best until I find the ones that don't do it. Important inventions. Edison also improved other inventions. Alexander Graham Bell had invented the telephone in 1876. The first versions required people to yell into the receiver to make themselves heard. The farther away the telephones were, the worse it was. In 1877, Edison and his team developed a way to make a caller's voice louder and clearer, even over long distances. Edison's family. Edison married Mary Stilwell in 1871. They had 3 children, Marion, Thomas Jr., and William. Mary died in 1884. Edison married his second wife, Mina Miller, in 1886. They had 3 children, Madeline, Charles, and Theodore. From his work on the telephone and telegraph, Edison had an idea. He wanted to record words and play them back. This idea led to the creation of the phonograph. The first thing Edison recorded was the nursery rhyme, "Mary Had a Little Lamb." To everyone's amazement, the machine played back the words. Some people didn't believe it. They thought someone was talking in another room. The phonograph was very simple compared to modern music players, but it was very exciting to people in the 1800s. Edison became famous, but he had a difficult time figuring out what to do with his invention. He experimented with different ideas, such as putting a phonograph inside a doll to make it talk, but the toy soon broke. Years later, after many improvements to the technology, the phonograph became popular as a way to record and listen to music. A special project. Edison wasted no time starting his next project. For many years, people had tried to find a practical way to use electricity to make light. Many inventors created light bulbs, but the bulbs either burned too brightly or dimly, or burned out too fast. In 1878, Edison became determined to solve this problem and sought out investors to help him. Edison and his team worked around the clock. The first challenge was to find a material for the filament, the part of a light bulb that glows. Edison's workers tried thousands of different materials until they found one that worked. Edison opened the lab for visitors to see his team's accomplishments. People were astounded when they walked up a path and entered the lab, which was brightly lit with electric lights. Soon, everyone wanted electric lights. The second challenge was creating an electrical system that could light a building and even a city. In 1881, Edison moved to New York City to help start the first electric power plant. Eventually, power plants in hundreds of communities were making it possible for people to switch from gas and oil lamps to electric lights. The War of the Currents. In the 1880s and 1890s, Edison and his electric companies were involved in fierce competition with another electric company led by George Westinghouse. Edison's method of delivering electricity was called direct current, or DC. Westinghouse claimed another method called alternating current, or AC, which was invented by Nikola Tesla, was a better, safer method. AC eventually became dominant. Other exciting ideas. In 1887, Edison moved into a larger lab in West Orange, New Jersey. Around that time, He was shown a machine that played multiple still images in very quick succession. The things in the images appeared to be moving. Edison requested that one of his workers, William Dickson, work on a machine that could record images and also a machine that could project them. Dickson and Edison would invent the kinetograph, a motion picture camera, and the kinetoscope, a projector that would allow one person to watch the movie through a peephole. Edison also tried to link sound with the images of this new invention. He found it too difficult to get the sound in pictures to match, so his films were silent. A remarkable man. Edison continued to pour ideas into his notebooks and work with his team to turn his ideas into reality. Some of his other inventions included machines for mining, improved batteries, and new uses for cement. Throughout his life, Edison obtained 1,093 patents, which was a record at the time. He continued to work until he was more than 80 years old. Thomas Edison died on October 18, 1931. President Herbert Hoover asked everyone in the country to turn out the lights for a short time to honor Edison. Sitting in the dark for a few moments, people could think about the great changes Thomas Edison had made in their lives. As Edison once said, "If we did all the things we are capable of doing, we would astound ourselves."